Now, I used to be the guy who used to struggle constantly every single day against chronic hunger and cravings, so much so that in one sitting, I ate not one, not two, but three whole pints of Ben and Jerry's ice cream, one right after the other. And I didn't even feel it. It didn't faze me. It didn't really satisfy me, which for reasons I'll get into in a little bit. But this was despite the fact that at the time I was trying so hard to eat clean and I was trying to follow one various diet after another that actually forbade me from eating any ice cream at all. So, why in the world was I unable to stop myself from eating so much of it? Because ultimately, that's why we adopt these diets in the first place. We're trying to harness more control over our diet. We want more control over our weight and our health and how our body looks. That's the allure of these diets that will tell you, oh, if you just stay away from these foods, you're going to have that control that you desire. But so often, these diets actually rob you and steal away that very control. And that's why so many people find themselves giving in or going off the wagon and so forth, because not despite the diet, but because of the dietary approach. And it's not just because we want what we can't have. Now, sure, of course, back then I was always following various diets because I wanted that control and I was always craving ice cream. But it wasn't because I wasn't allowed to eat ice cream, because of course every diet didn't allow me to have Ben and Jerry's. It didn't matter if it was low fat, low carb, low sugar, paleo, whatever. Ice cream violated the rules of every single diet that I was following. But it was instead, it wasn't the ice cream, but the fact that I was always battling some perpetual chronic desire for something else. See, the approach of eating here at the Red Delta Project isn't any particular diet because I wouldn't want to limit you or hold you back in that way. Instead, it's recognizing that fundamentally, your diet is healthy depending on how well it satisfies your four fundamental appetites. So, your desire for hunger and just getting enough food, your desire for nutritional support, making sure you're adequately supplying the building blocks of the nutrition that you need to be healthy and running well, your metabolic support, so you're getting enough of all that stuff to supply your training and your physical activity levels. And yes, fourth is hedonic support, the emotional enjoyment from food, the pleasurable sensations we get from it, the desire we have of I want sugar and salt and fat and all these things. These are things that we're supposed to respect, not avoid. And the idea with so many diets out there telling you that, oh, you need to be on the diet. Otherwise, you're going to be eating so much because if you just allow yourself to eat whatever you want, whenever you want, you're just going to eat nothing but junk food and you're never going to be able to stop yourself. Therefore, you need the diet to save you from your reptilian primal brain that's just going to eat nothing but potato chips and Ben and Jerry's all day long. And because our appetites are often chronically unmet because these diets are usually very restrictive, which means you're not satisfying your hunger. Or in my case, many times, I wasn't getting the adequate nutrition support I wanted, or the hedonic support, or the metabolic support. We have this perpetual, chronic, unending desire for food, or oftentimes junk food, and we think that's our true human nature. But it's not, because that's not how human beings work. It's how we work when we're constantly being underfed, which is essentially what most diets encourage us to do. And so, case in point, like I still enjoy my ice cream, and yes, sometimes it's still Ben and Jerry's, but I bought this pint of Ben and Jerry's over a week ago, and that's all I've eaten so far. Is just kind of scraped off the surface a little bit, and this one pint will probably last me for the rest of the month. And I'm not bringing any sort of restriction to it. I'm not like eating it being like, oh, I'd love to polish off this pint, but I'd better stop. I'm trying to be good. No, I simply do not have the desire to eat that much ice cream in a single sitting, even though I love ice cream. And it's because I'm not following any sort of restrictive dietary pattern at all. I eat whatever I want, whenever I want, as much as I want. And because of that, my hunger is met, my nutritional support is met because most of my foods are very nutritionally dense. My hedonic support is met. I eat just purely for the pleasure of it. Is sometimes, yes, I'm stressed, yes, I'm bored, and I'll eat to satiate that. Not very often, but I do that. And sometimes it's purely to give me energy for a big bike ride or something. And because my appetites are so much better met because I'm not on a diet, I simply don't have the desire to eat a whole pint of this stuff at any time, and I don't have to do battle with the willpower to do so. And that's the biggest fear that a lot of people have when they come across my ideas of eating to satisfy, is that, oh, if I eat to satisfy, I'm just gonna eat nothing but junk food and everything forever. And to that, I say, test that out. See how that works for you. Sure, go ahead, eat a full pint of Ben & Jerry's. How does that satisfy you? How well does it satisfy you? If you really are hungry, a pint of Ben & Jerry's doesn't really satisfy that much. You want something with some more substance to it. If you're nutritionally not deficient, but if you're not adequate, that's not going to do you a whole lot of good because there's not a whole lot of nutritional value to that. Eating rich, whole, nutrient-dense foods is going to satisfy you a lot better, which is why when people start to eat to satisfy rather than eat to be clean or whatever the diet is approaching, they find that they don't need nearly as much food or quote unquote junk food as they thought they did to be satisfied. And because they're satisfied, the desire just simply isn't there. And the last point to this little video lesson is that when I ate those 3 pints of Ben & Jerry's, I was still craving more Ben & Jerry's because ultimately I didn't understand what I fundamentally desired, what I wanted, what my true appetite was. And that's something that is also rampant within dietary culture is fight your appetites, ignore your appetites, go against your appetites. They're evil, they're gonna lead you astray. And because of that, we constantly deprive them and they're constantly there. And we think we're gonna wanna eat 3 pints of Ben & Jerry's, and we will if we're not understanding what we truly want and are still starving ourselves, because it doesn't matter how hungry you are and your desire for sweet, salty, hyperpalatable foods is there. If your nutritional support is still really low, you're still gonna wanna chronically eat more and more and more because you're still starving yourself. And yes, that goes for hedonic appetites as well. If you want ice cream, and you're just eating nothing but organic salmon fillets and vegetables and apples and stuff, then you're still just gonna wanna keep eating and eating and eating because you're not giving yourself what you truly want and desire. And yeah, that goes for emotional things too. A lot of times we have emotional eating, negative emotional eating. Well, yeah, if you crave companionship because you're bored or you're lonely or you want something to do because you're bored, yeah, you're gonna eat like crazy because this isn't really going to replace the hole that is in your emotional state because you're lonely. Reaching out and connecting with a good friend will be a better way to do that, because the fundamental nature of our appetites and desires is that they're quick and easy to satisfy when we give ourselves exactly what we truly honestly want. Otherwise, you just keep indulging and consuming because you have those unmet cravings or desires because you don't honestly know what they really are on a fundamental level. If you want to check out more about my approach to eating to satisfy, the true nature of healthy eating, check out these videos here. And as always, stay well fed, be fit, and live free.